Ink Ribbon.
While Albert Wesker is a more visible villain in the series, William Birkin was behind the scenes causing havoc and laying down the groundwork for viruses and monsters that would go on for decades and leave a really dark legacy behind him even after his death. So today let's flip the script and put the scientist under the microscope to get a better look at this infamous virologist in Resident Evil. From unused concepts to making everyone pregnant, here are 25 facts about William Birkin. William Birkin was a child prodigy when it came to science, getting his doctorate at a very early age and being recruited by Umbrella at the age of 15, under the guidance of James Marcus. The only other recruit alongside him was Albert Wesker, creating a simultaneous friendship and rivalry between them for years to come. During their conditioning at Umbrella, they both got desensitized to the unethical practices that were common there, which led to both of them doing things like human experimentation and even killing their mentor, James Marcus, in cold blood. In order to avoid police interference, Birkin became involved with Chief of Police Brian Irons, and him and Annette made sure to keep him well compensated with bribe money along with updates about the G-Virus research, most likely as insurance against being double-crossed. The same way that Wesker turned on Umbrella, Birkin also had plans to betray Umbrella from within, secretly talking with military insiders with plans to sell them the G-Virus in exchange for asylum for him and his family. He even went as far as to preemptively sabotage certain Umbrella facilities, mainly the disposal plant from Resident Evil 3, flooding it with an excess of failed test subjects, overwhelming its systems, and essentially disabling it by turning it into a chemical soup, which not only infected all of the staff, but also is mainly responsible for causing Nemesis to revive and mutate into his final form. The eyeball on William's arm is one of the signature design elements, but it's not fully explained how it works. While I could not find concrete evidence, it does seem that William is no longer able to use his original eyes and relies on this new one to see. The two things that lead towards this conclusion are in Resident Evil 2 when he doesn't react to things around him until he opens the eye on his arm and scans the room. The second is the simple fact that he literally grows another head while his original one recedes into his body. William was supposed to have a large part in Outbreak, most likely having his own scenario. He even has a model still in the game files, which implies that his scenario was cut late in development. He does, however, still appear in the beautiful CG opening credit sequence. When William is near death, he injects himself with the G-Virus as a last-ditch effort to survive, since it had been proven to bring test subjects back from death. While it obviously turned him into a monster, he was hoping that he would become a G-human, which is a human with the regenerative power of the G-Virus. This mutation is 1 in a million, so of course it didn't happen, but later on his own daughter Sherry became the one and only being to successfully bond with the G-Virus, as we learn in the 6th game. In Resident Evil 1.5, William had a different design that more closely resembles what his final concept ended up being. The most noticeable difference is the giant protrusion from his back instead of having his giant eye. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, when waiting for him to tear down the shutters, if the player stands right under this air unit, William is unable to reach you. There's a very rare glitch in the original Resident Evil 2 during the final boss in Scenario A. Occasionally, William will grab Leon or Claire while he's on the upper level, which in turn gets the player stuck in the air. If playing as Leon, he's still defeatable, but it's almost impossible with Claire due to her grenade rounds being unable to hit him. Speaking of Claire, there's another glitch during this fight that the speedrunner by the name of Rufus has found. If you run to this spot and begin firing grenade rounds non-stop, he will transform. Keep this going till he jumps above, and then run in front of the elevator and fire at him while he's above you. This puts him in a pattern that prevents him from ever attacking you and is probably one of the fastest and smoothest ways of defeating him. In each of the 3 versions of the story, Annette confronts William in a different way. In the original, she approaches William in hopes of finding some humanity in him. In Darkside Chronicles, she tries to shoot him in self-defense, and in the Resident Evil 2 remake, she prepares a special chemical round and shoots him to weaken him. In all 3 versions, William retaliates by killing Annette. The reason William goes around implanting embryos into Ben, Chief Irons, and Sherry is purely out of instinct. G-monsters operate much like animals, where basic instincts to defend, eat, and reproduce completely take over, and every G embryo can eventually grow into a G-monster. In the case of Irons and Ben, because they weren't a genetic match, the embryos simply exited the host in order to find another. But in Sherry's case, the embryos began to grow and multiply inside of her in order to grow into a true monster just like him. There are also some cases where other reactions can happen, such as the G-zombies, which apparently were in Darkside Chronicles according to what I found online, but I don't remember ever seeing these guys in the game, so if you did see them, let me know in the comments. One of the more disturbing things that Birkin was involved with was using children from the orphanage as his test subjects for research. In a cruel manipulation, the children would be told that they were being adopted, only to be sent to the nest for experimentation. This is elaborated on in 2 files you find in the Resident Evil 2 remake. First of which is Tom's diary, where a teen boy describes all the injections all the kids are getting, and one kid returning looking like a monster, only to change tone and excitement when he finds out he's getting adopted, and then the entries stop there. The other file is a Claire-exclusive one in the shower room of the orphanage, where an Umbrella officer mentions one of the children becoming a security risk, so they decide to dispose of all the children in the orphanage. The title screen of Resident Evil 2 is a close-up shot of William's eye during his final moments. Interestingly though, this eyeball does not match up to the one in the game at all, though this was corrected in the remake. This is the rejected monster version of William, dubbed Zeram, and instead of his trademark claw and eyeball, he has more of a horned rhino look as well as a tentacle for an arm. In his first form, William has the ability to kill the player instantly if he hits them with his pipe while you're recovering from being knocked down. Even with infinite health cheats active, it will still kill you. During the battle on the train in his second form, if the player takes a hit while low on health, William will impale Claire or Leon in a special death animation. This is a direct callback to the way the Tyrant kills Wesker in the first game. As William mutates, he is in constant need of nutrients and energy and must continually eat. While we don't ever really see him eat anyone or anything, this is illustrated through each mutation causing him to grow a larger and larger mouth until his final form on the train is basically just a mouth with eyes. Resident Evil Resistance is the first time we're ever able to control William as a monster, being summoned by Annette to chase down survivors. While William isn't the most prominent character in the series, he's probably the character who has the biggest legacy. Not only did he create a new strain of the T-virus, but he created the infamous G-virus, which after further experimenting led to the creation of several other viruses throughout the series, such as the NE-alpha parasite which created Nemesis, Las Plagas, and even the C-virus in 6, all of which are derived from his research and past work. When transforming, William started off with an uncontrolled mutation but slowly began to stabilize, and by the time he reached his third form, he was in what most likely would have been his final form. This form was designed to resemble the original Tyrant, but to be even more powerful, hence the extra arms and mouth on his chest, as well as not having a visible weak spot like the Tyrant's exposed heart. However, due to Claire and Leon constantly damaging him, it caused him to completely destabilize and rapidly undergo new mutation, which is why he ends up as just a grotesque blob by the end of the game. Being extremely proud of his work, when Alexia Ashford joined the company in 1981 and quickly rose to almost royalty status due to the Ashford's legacy, William was crushed and immediately despised her. Vowing to exceed her abilities and prove himself, he threw himself into his work. During this time, he solved the issue of 10% of the population being immune to the T-virus, created the Hunter Alpha, and also met his future wife, Annette. If you pay close attention during the first fight with William in the remake, you can see that he is really struggling to fight for control of his mind and his body against the G-virus. While there's no subtitles for him, you can hear him saying several phrases including, "Help me," "Sherry," and even, "Kill me." It's also worth mentioning that just like Mr. X, he has his own senses and you can actually lose him in the fight if you run and hide. though this will make him drop down on you eventually. It's very hard to see, but in almost every rendition of his mutated forms, you can find remnants of William's human face still on his body. And that is it for this video. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, be sure to implant that like button with your embryos. Did you know that Sherry will stay young forever? Or that Sofia Vergara once played Lara Croft? For more facts like these, be sure to check out my playlist with tons of videos just like this, and if there's a character you'd like to see that I haven't covered yet, let me know down below. Until next time, I'm Kai Morgan, and as always, thanks for watching Ink Ribbon. And a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Your extra support means the world to me and helps me keep making content for you guys.